So I'm back now with the clean glass, clean acrylic plastic, and I'm ready to fit this in and screw it down. There's 6 T15 Torx fittings. Let me get started on those. There's one. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You don't want to tighten the acrylic too tight because acrylic's fairly soft and brittle. It cracks easily. And there we go. Now, I'll point out the 6 that I just screwed in. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and the first one, of course, was this one right here. Okay. And now those 4 have been done. Recap. Instrument panel. This one. This one. This one. And this one. That's 4 of them. Don't do them too tightly, but you don't want it to vibrate. So you have to make it secure, but don't overdo it. And now let's move on to the next part. Alright, the next part of this is to put this cowling on, this kind of cover plate thing. See this piece right here? It's got the 2 air conditioning vents at that end, the air conditioning vent at that end, the mirror controls right there, my hand, the opening for the instrument panel cluster through that hole, and then this peculiar square, which I believe is a knockout for OBD1. This is a 1993 vehicle, and I don't think OBD2 was yet at that time in use. Okay, next is to put this item back in. You might notice that the steering wheel here, let me get a shot of the column, is loose. See how I can just lift up and raise down the steering wheel? That's because the supporting bracket has been loosened, because the steering wheel needs to drop down in order to get this particular cowling off. So I had to loosen the steering wheel, lower it out of place so that I can get this in behind the steering wheel column. So now it's time to fit that back in so that I can reassemble the steering column cowling, and we'll get to that in a minute. But first I just want to put this big piece just kind of generally in its place, and I'll secure that in greater detail later. But this thing is positioned by a couple of tabs. Let's see, let me get something to point with. That is a positioning bracket, and what happens is this little tab right here will push into that opening. This little tab right here will push into that opening. Let's see. And that's about it, I think, on the positioning things. Let's see if there's anything at this end. No, that's about it. So what I'm going to do is just generally place this. Oh, here's something to notice too. Look what I found when I took this cowling off. It looks like, I don't know what kind of a electrical adapter that is. I thought it might be an OBD1 connection. Let's see if you recognize that kind of fitting. It's got actual electrical connections in positions. If I go from top left in a clockwise way, position 1 has no connection. Position 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 have connections. And but position number 1 is a blank. I thought that might be an OBD1. It was just tucked back in here behind this cowling, but also right behind this little knockout. And the knockout, if you look behind it, has a great little bracket that's just right, if you knocked it out, to accommodate that little clip. And but I believe the OBD1, this is an OBD1 model because it's a 1993. I believe the onboard diagnostics are up under the hood on the driver's side, near the windshield wiper motor, and there's a box there with some electrical connections called EEC in that location, and I think that's the OBD1 connection. So that's an under the hood kind of connection as opposed to a near the steering column OBD connection. But anyway, I'm fitting this just loosely here with the notation that there's that positioning point, positioning point here, positioning point there, and then ultimately I'm going to attach a screw here, and up above the instrument panel 3 screws, one here, and one here. And there may be another screw. If I move over to the left side, there's one more screw right here. And there's one other thing I need to do is to get the mirror harness, the electrical harness for the mirror, connected to this. So this would be a good time to do that so that I don't forget it. So let me just put this down. Remove the cowling, go back to this. The harness for the mirror is here. And so when I put that cowling back in, that would be a good time to reconnect this. So I think I'll do that right now. Now I can get the 2 halves of the, notice down here the steering column has a lower portion dangling. Let me kind of give you the general idea of that. That will go that's positioned properly. That'll go kind of like that with the big circle over the ignition key point. And the top part of this will go in like so. That is the top part, and that will drop down like that, and the bottom part will be lifted up to mate. 2 surfaces will mate, and there will be screws. I see 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 screws that will go in there to hold those 2 parts together. 3 or 4 screws. I see wells for 1, 2, 3, and there's another spot there for a screw of some sort. Okay, the cowling. around the steering column. Two halves that fit together. They snap together on this side, and they snap together on this side. Let's see, once they snap together, sneak down to underneath, and there are 3 Phillips head screws. One goes here, one goes here. Start again. One goes here, one goes here, and one goes here. There, there, and there. 3 Phillips heads. And now there's one more screw, and that's the one. Those 3 attach the cowling to the upper half to the lower half, and now I've got to attach the cowling to the steering column. I think now the time has arrived to go ahead and bolt up the steering column. As you see now, that's free hanging. I took 4, I think they're 12mm bolts to put that in. Let me work on that right now. Those are 12mm. Alright, let me show you how that worked. I've got 4 of these 12mm bolts that, let me show you where they go. Up here. This is the steering wheel heading down. I'll take it all the way down to the brakes, accelerator pedal. Okay, right over the brake is the steering column back there. I'll bring it on up to the front. That's part of the steering column, that white label. All the way up to a bracket. Just beyond that little label. See if I can get a read on that. Alright, there's one of the holes. That one I just put the nut in. So there's a hole there missing its cap screw. There's a hole right there missing its cap screw. And there's a hole right there missing its cap screw. So I'm going to do these 4. That one, that one. Where did it go? That one, and that one. So I'll go ahead and screw those in now. 4 12mm cap screws. In the meantime, I don't see any reason why I can't go ahead and attach the screws. Let me show you which ones are left. I need to attach a screw here, down here, moving up. I need to put one in there. I need to put one here, over there, above the heater controls. Then moving back this way, did I get that one? I've got to put one in there. Then I've got to get these 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. And I think that should consume all of my screws